internet? All right, we are live on the interwebs. All right, so let's talk really quickly about the quiz. When you put all of those logical fallacies together, they're really hard to distinguish, aren't they? Who can tell me what the difference between ad hominem and tu quoque is?
Tu quoque is when you tell somebody not to do something, even if you do it, and ad hominem is where you target the person rather than their argument.
So what's the difference?
The difference is ad hominem, you're targeting what the person does and why he can't do it. Tu quoque is you're telling him. Tu quoque is when you say, well, you do this, so why can't I?
Okay, so the second one is part.
This difference is one person. The difference is
You're close. You got tu quoque right, okay? Ad hominem is that you don't believe someone's argument because you question their character, right? And so, well, literally just turn on any politician right now, and you're going to see an ad hominem attack. It's this person does this, and so we can't trust him over here. Now, as we're reviewing this, what is the difference between someone not being trustworthy because they've revealed themselves to be a liar in the past and an ad hominem attack?
The liar one's true ad hominem is just because all you want to do is prove their argument wrong regardless if it's true or not.
When actually you don't want to prove their argument wrong, you want to distract. And that's the difference. An ad hominem attack is a distraction. It is an absolute refusal to interact with the argument. Okay, does that make sense? So if you remember the cartoon I put up a few weeks ago on that, ad hominem is when a Christian says, I believe in a 6-day literal creation. And instead of interacting with evolution versus creationism, you say, well, only idiots and bigots believe in creationism. Are you actually interacting with 6 days of creation? Now, what might be some legitimate objections someone has to 6 literal days of creation?
You don't know how to count.
You don't know how to count? Okay, how does that work?
Because you don't know how many days because you don't know how to count.
Okay, so like you just disagreeing with 6 total days. That's not really an argument against it because everyone in Christianity has the 6 actual days in. But like, what would an evolutionist interacting with creationism say to combat creationism if they were interacting with the argument? Josh?
Nobody was there, so how do you know?
So no one was there, how do you know? That's also a weak argument. Anyone know where the big one is? There you go. So the fossil record, which is kind of what you were saying, Lincoln, is you can't count. It's when evolutionists count the creation of the world, they count in the millions. And when creationists count how long it took for creation, we don't even run out of fingers, right? And so if someone says, well, the fossil evidence or, radiocarbon dating, which is a big one, would indicate that some of these rocks are either million or billions of years old. How do you as Christians work that into 6 days of creation? Anyone know the actual Christian response to that objection? Josh?
Something along the lines of pointing out all of carbon dating's errors.
Okay. So one of the arguments, and you have to do your research on this, is it has been demonstrated that in certain cases radiocarbon dating breaks down. It's not consistent with measuring time. And so it's not a reliable unit of measurement. Anyone else know another one? Melissa.
Another thing too is Noah's flood. Like it could have created like so much rain and so much force.
Mm-hmm.
After those days it created like the Grand Canyon and a lot of like the different fossil things we save from so much water.
What is the lowest depth a human can dive without diving equipment, without being crushed? Anyone know?
Like 1,000 meters something.
I don't have the exact answer, but it's not very deep, right? And so the point is, 1, air is heavy, 2, water is heavier, And 3, air on top of water is very, very heavy. And so if we take the Bible literally and say that Mount Everest at the time was covered, 20, 30 feet? That much water, we're more or less here in Minnesota, we're like, 1,000 feet above sea level here, maybe like 500 feet above sea level on the plains. What would happen to us if someone threw 20,000 feet of water on top of us? You ever been to the junkyard and seen one of those cubed cars? Yeah, that's exactly what would happen to us, right? Now, there are other arguments about Mount Everest probably didn't exist during the time of the flood. Mount Everest was probably created during the time of the flood. All sorts of fun stuff like that we can get on when we actually talk about evolution. But is there a real conversation and a real debate to have there? Yeah, there absolutely is. 100%. Okay? But as Christians, if you're choosing to take a stance for 6 literal days of creation, and you notice someone attacking your character or someone attacking people who have faith in something unseen as being overly simplistic, can we address that now? That's not actually interacting with our arguments. And that's what is where we take what we learned for the last 2 weeks with logical fallacies and we combine it with what we learned from Greg Kokel in tactics. How to spin someone else's logical fallacy to our advantage. That's exactly what tactics is all about. That's what I want you guys learning as we go through the next couple of weeks and as you prep for your major assignment. Right? This is all about what your major assignment is going to be about. And again, I am mostly committing that we're going to do pairs. So as much as you guys don't want to, we have 14 people. We can do 7 pairs. We'll have 7 interesting topics to cover. So I think, unless I'm convinced otherwise, that's what we're going to end up with. Okay? Any other questions with logical fallacies or anything like that? All right, so we're going to finish logical fallacies very quickly. And then we're going to go from there into the new material from tactics. So propaganda. What is propaganda? Anyone remember? You read this? Oh, no, you didn't read this. Never mind. I have to teach you this. A propaganda is any strategy for spreading one's beliefs or ideas that is not necessarily bad, but it does need to be honest. Okay? So we'll go back really quick here. Anyone know what that lady's name is? One of the most famous propagandas in all of history. This is from what period of time, first of all? World War II and the Cold War, but it's really from World War II. Her name is Rosie the Riveter. Why did they need to have a Rosie the Riveter? Motivation to do what? To win the war, to work in the factories, to produce the things we need to win the war. Okay? And part of the problem with recruiting women for World War II is most of the men in 18 to 40 were where? At war in one of those 2 directions, right? Either on the Pacific coast or in Europe or in North Africa. And so there needed, for the United States and the Allied forces in World War II, they needed an effective way of recruiting people to participate in the war effort. Why would they have to do that for women? Well, the only women were the only one there. We've covered it. But why would they need a propaganda? Why wouldn't a propaganda campaign? Why wouldn't it just be natural for women to step into that role? Yeah, so up until that point, society, mostly Western society, but really around the globe, the role of the man was to work, and the role of the woman was to... Yeah, so the man, and I don't like the distinction between work and stay at home, because that implies women were doing nothing, okay? So the distinction is the men worked outside of the home to earn the income. The women worked inside of the home to raise the family. Okay? But now we're in a situation where all of the men are literally at war, and so we need the women to step into jobs to work in these factories to produce the ammunition, to produce the guns, to produce the tanks, to produce the warships. All of these things had to happen. And so the United States developed this propaganda effort that was good, it was well-intentioned, but it was still propaganda. It's how do we spread our beliefs or ideas, okay? So, first thing we need to get out of our head with propaganda, because propaganda is kind of this word that as soon as you say anything is propaganda, it's intended to be negative today. Propaganda is not negative, so long as it's true. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so propaganda is not necessarily bad, but there is manipulative propaganda playing on emotions to make someone agree with us without letting them think through the matter regularly. Okay. Anyone know what the big area we're going to be covering with the next several slides with propaganda? What is the area most in America where we see propaganda?
Politics.
Not politics this time. Thank goodness. I am all the way done with politics.
Online.
What?
Online.
Not online.
Anti-smoking commercials.
You're half right. Where?
Smoking commercials.
No, not smoking. It doesn't have anything to do with smoking. Commercials. All advertising is propaganda. Most advertising is manipulative propaganda. Why?
Because they want you to buy their product.
They want you to buy their product, and they want you to do it without thinking. Because what happens if you think first?
I don't need this.
So you might decide you don't need it. What else? Okay, I'm going to play it safe here, and I might be walking into a trap because there's any number of guys who have. How many in here have no loyalty to a car brand whatsoever? So like you don't care if it's Ford, Chevy, Dodge, anything like that. So not to be sexist, I expected most girls to be down that department, but some guys are like, no, I'm a Chevy guy, no, I'm a Ford guy, stuff like that. If you have no loyalty to a car, there's two options for you. And buying a car is still a big purchase for just about anyone, right? A new car costs on average $30,000 right now, give or take, okay? That's a big deal. That's a lot of money. So if you're buying a car and you're doing it in the wisest way possible, what are you going to do? And you don't have product loyalty.
Buy the highest quality one, that's the cheapest.
Okay, buy the highest quality, that's the cheapest. Now you skipped over a major step. That's the end goal. Research. Right? Okay, research introduces competition. Okay? If you're doing research, how many different car companies are you looking at?
Everyone.
All of them, right? And it might be the case that the car that I'm trying to sell you isn't actually as good as my competition across the street. So my two options are to spend more money and do a good job making the best car possible, and even still people might not choose you, or I can have an effective ad campaign to get you to want to buy it for other reasons. So anyone in here remember the last car commercial that they saw?
Probably like one of those Ford truck commercials.
Yeah, the Ford truck commercials are on all the time. My goodness, they spend a lot on advertising. But did the last car commercial, did it make you go, meh? Or did it make you go, oh, that's pretty awesome. I'd like to drive one of those?
Man, but only because I've seen it 1,000 times.
Well, that's the case. I own a truck. And literally every truck commercial I see, I'm like, oh man, that is an awesome truck. You know, the only thing keeping me from buying a new truck is that I'm poor. Right? That's the only thing, right? Otherwise, I'd go out, buy a new truck, it would be under warranty, I wouldn't have to worry about oil leaks and flat tires and anything else like that. But the purpose of an ad campaign is to make you to skip the step of research, to skip over competition, and to buy it because it satisfies some emotional need. Car companies do that, food companies do that, clothing companies do that, apps do that. Anyone who's trying to sell you something does it. How many of you here have seen the Princess Bride? One of the 10 greatest movies ever made. There's a line in The Princess Bride, life is pain. What's the follow-up to that line? Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. Now you're seeing this is propaganda, okay? Propaganda, when we look at an ad, we can know it's propaganda. We can choose to ignore it. Propaganda becomes a problem when it enters into other realms. What about propaganda about religion?
No, that's terrible.
Does it exist?
Yeah.
All the time. What about propaganda against religion?
Yeah.
That is more or less what World War II and the Cold War were about. Propaganda against religion. Propaganda against religion in World War II was against what religion? The Jews, mostly. Christians kind of got wrapped in at the end. The Jews, mostly. Propaganda during the Cold War in the 60s and following was mostly against what religion? Any religion, right? Any religion versus atheism. Okay? So this becomes a problem when we are trying to get around causing people to think for themselves. Now, do we see in society today that there's a major problem with people not thinking for themselves? Absolutely. Okay, now you know what we're getting at. So, propaganda, in unhealthily done manipulative propaganda, mirrors the red herring fallacy. How?
It's used to distract you from researching and
Yes.
thinking of the facts.
Distraction tactics, okay? And this is why I had you read tactics right after logical fallacies, okay? You need to realize that someone is not interacting with your argument. You need to use it for your advantage and draw them back into the conversation. Does that make sense? How do we get around propaganda? We ask the question, is this person actually proving what he is saying, and is their claim relevant? Okay, so someone comes out there and says the iPhone is the best cell phone on the market. Okay, is that a testable claim? Can you do research to say this phone is better than that phone? Dozens of times. I'm an Android user. I have a Galaxy Note 10 Plus because I like really big screens. All right. I thought multiple times of switching to iPhones, but I didn't, partly because I spent so much money on my Android phone and the apps don't cross over, but partly the iPhone isn't good enough to make me want to switch. I did the research, though. You see how that works? Do the research. It negates the propaganda. Okay, any questions with this? Okay, so types of propaganda. The appeal to fear or pity. So the appeal to fear is making someone fear the consequences of not doing what he wants. This is politics. Okay? If you vote for X candidate, the world is going to burn to the ground. Okay? Is the world actually going to burn to the ground if you vote for X candidate? No.
Nuclear war.
No. What? The only candidate that would literally cause something to burn to the ground would be a candidate made out of pure fire. We don't have to worry about that.
What about the candidate who says I'm going to start a nuclear war?
If the candidate says that, I wouldn't worry about him being elected because no one wants a nuclear war. Not a single person. Like even people who make nuclear devices are like, yeah, that's going to be bad for business. Okay? So the fear of nuclear war is a powerful thing. Actual nuclear war gets rid of a lot of things, okay? No one wants actual nuclear war. Plenty of people want fear of nuclear war. You see how the distinction there? Okay. Next one, the appeal to pity. Make someone do something because we pity him or something associated with him. How does that work?
Poor Joe Biden. He's run for president 4 times and he hasn't won once.
All right.
I feel sad for him. Shouldn't he get a chance to be president?
Wow, that's terrible. I'm going to literally dock the person's next grade who brings up politics after that. I am so sick of the election. But you're right, okay? Try to find better examples. That's exactly what it is.
Sorry.
Shouldn't someone else get a turn? Don't we want to be fair? Life isn't fair, okay? Guess what? Christianity also isn't fair. If Christianity were fair, what would happen to us?
Everybody gets to die.
Everyone, yeah, no, that was a good left turn you made there in the end. Fair Christianity isn't everyone goes to heaven. Fair Christianity is everyone goes to hell. Okay? Right. The appeal to pity here. How can you convict this man of murder? The context of this trial was this man is being accused of killing both of his parents. Think about it for a second. Wait for it. You'll get it. Nathan, what?
He's defending
killing his parents. He's an orphan by his own actions, right? This is why, rather than make fun of politicians, let's just make fun of lawyers for the rest of the day. I can handle making fun of lawyers. I have friends who are lawyers. They can take it. Anyone here have parents who are lawyers? Okay, good. Then we're in the clear. Okay, no one likes lawyers. All right, here we go. Bandwagon is the next propaganda type. Bandwagon. How many sports fans know what the term bandwagon means? If you're a sports fan, what does being a bandwagon jumper mean?
Everybody's doing it.
Not quite, close. Bandwagon is cheering for whatever's popular at the moment. Okay, so when I was your guys' age, it was the mid-90s, and the Chicago Bulls were the most popular sports team on the face of the planet. Anyone know why? Michael Jordan. Okay? As soon as Michael Jordan retired and left the Bulls, how many people were Bulls fans? Almost no one, right? Because they weren't winning. The Bulls won 6 championships in 8 years. That's really hard to do. Alex? Now it's Warriors fans. Exactly. Warriors fans or Lakers fans, even worse. Don't cheer for teams from Los Angeles, ever. Don't. All right. What? Great. What logical fallacy is that?
Heart to hold.
Is it ad hominem?
Not at. No, that would be terrible.
Like heart to hold because he's a Christian, that must mean the team's good.
I could see that. This would be an appeal to authority, right? We should like him because he's a Christian. Now, we should like him, and is it good that he's a Christian? Does that mean we should cheer for his team? Are there Christians on other teams? There we go. All right. Now you guys are talking. All right. So bandwagon is an invitation to do what everyone else is doing. It is also peer pressure. Okay. Peer pressure is the bandwagon fallacy. You guys see this coming in ads in marketing? Peer pressure? Yeah, this is the everyone's doing it. Right. So if you can't see this, this is, Kat, you didn't read the book. You even refused to take one look inside, yet you still claim that it is racist. Yes, because it is. Why? All critics say the book is racist. That's the bandwagon fallacy. The bandwagon fallacy. You guys get it? Okay. Exigency is a big word.
Can I take a picture of the last one? Sorry.
All right. I keep forgetting.
It's okay.
Are we good? So exigency, nothing more than a time limit is given for a reason to do something. And that might seem hard to understand until I put the cartoon up there, and then you will immediately see what this error is. Porcupines for sale for the next 12 hours. Is the reason to buy a porcupine for a pet that they're going to be out of porcupines in 12 hours? You guys see ads like this all the time? Yeah. So exigency is just putting an artificial timeline on it to convince someone of an idea. This is the whole slide. If you want a picture, take it now. We're good? Repetition. When people think about propaganda from World War II, this is probably what they're thinking about. Repetition, repeating a message loudly and often in hope that someone will believe it or that will wear them down and they'll stop caring. That's what repetition is. Repetition, my good friend Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. Hi, I'm Calvin, eminent television personality, here to tell you about new improved chocolate frosted sugar bombs. I love them. They're crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside, and they don't have a single natural ingredient or essential vitamin to get in the way of that rich, fudgy taste. Mmm. Basically Count Chocula. Okay? Yes, kids, you'll like them so much you won't be able to sit still. Remember, it's the cereal I get paid to recommend because I'm famous. What logical fallacy is the third frame? Faulty appeal to authority. All right. What do you think? Are you filled with the desire to emulate me and eat the cereal I endorse? If not, I can repeat this every 20 minutes.
What does Hobbes say?
What? Hobbes says, don't you threaten me. All right. Guys have a firm grasp of repetition, 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 repetition. Transfer. Okay, transfer, the easiest thing to do is just to put this up, getting us to transfer our good or bad feelings about one thing to an unrelated thing. It's a false connection. It's similar to the appeal to authority, celebrity endorsements. Okay? Yes?
Well, like the first one, what I think is like the media saying, these people are Nazis. You know, if you have bad feelings about the Nazis because they're Nazis, but
Yeah.
these guys Nazis. No, they're not.
Yeah, every political attack ad is transfer. Okay, but we're not talking about politics. We're going to ignore it. We're going to do on the more positive side of thing. Which athlete right now is on every single TV commercial? Anyone know?
Scott Sterling.
Not Scott Sterling. Close. Aaron Rodgers was for probably the last 10 years. This guy's Patrick Mahomes literally sells everything. Everything is Patrick Mahomes. He's on a Hy-Vee commercial now. How does Hy-Vee get Patrick Mahomes? They're a regional grocery store, right? Celebrity endorsements are to get you to think, I like this guy or this gal, and so I should like this product. And Calvin did it in the last slide. The reality of it is that they're getting paid to do it, right? Josh.
This kind of like back when like movies you would go see them because a particular actor was in them.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
gonna go see this movie because this guy's in it.
But-
Not I'm gonna see this movie because it's good.
it's similar, but not really, because the whole drawing thing of the movie for some people is that a certain actor is. I have favorite actors. Like if I know an actor is in a certain movie, I will watch it or I will not watch it, depending on who the actor is. So kind of the actors are the draw of the movie. What this can be is movies actually pay millions of dollars or are paid millions of dollars by company for product placement. So like if someone's in a movie and you see a can of Coke on the table, positioned just perfectly so you can see the Coca-Cola logo, people pay for that, and it's a subliminal thing like, oh, Coke, I could go for a Coke. You know, that's how that works. This kind of fits into that. You guys can be aware of that happening. Actual authority or expertise is not the transfer fallacy, okay? So are there certain things that Patrick Mahomes might actually know about that we should listen to his opinion? So, like, if Patrick Mahomes offered the Patrick Holmes quarterback workshop over the summer, does Patrick Mahomes know about playing quarterback?
I don't know who that is. Is he a quarterback?
He's a quarterback, sorry. I need another example. What?
Is that why like the movie example could fall into like the last category because
Mhm.
the actor or actress is actually in the movie, and so
And they're a good actor or actress, right? So,
instead of just using nothing related to what their actual expertise is, like they
Mhm.
do know that.
so like if Tom Hanks is one of my favorite actors. I think Tom Hanks is a terrific actor. If Tom Hanks is in a movie, even if I know what the movie's about and not really prone to see it, I'm going to consider seeing it because Tom Hanks is in it, because I know he's a good actor, right? If I think someone's a terrible actor, for example, Sacha Baron Cohen, who was in the Borat movies and a bunch of other trash that's put out there, I'm not going to watch it because I know what he's about. I don't want to see it. That's making that decision. That's a great example. So thank you. Okay. Any questions about transfer? There we go. That's transfer right there. Captain America wants you to buy war bonds. Does Captain America actually want you to buy war bonds?
Well, this Captain America did.
The answer is still no. Why? No, he's not. Captain America doesn't want you to buy war bonds because he's fictional. He doesn't exist. Not possible. Josh.
Captain America was an actual piece of propaganda during World War II.
Yeah, he was, and he was in fact a positive piece of propaganda in World War II. When you're in a war where all of your resources are being consumed to win the war, does the government have a vested interest in making people feel patriotic feelings?
Yep.
Yeah.
First comic had me knocking out
Yeah, punching Hitler in the face. Yeah. So that's what it looks like. Fictional characters do not care about what you purchase. Okay? Baseline right there. Okay, snob appeal. Appealing that a product or idea will make us stand out or somehow better than everyone else is snob appeal. Okay, this is a Rolls-Royce commercial. Everyone know what Rolls-Royce cars are? They're really super expensive, hoity-toity British cars. I think they're British, maybe they're Swiss. I think they're British. So you're buying a Rolls-Royce, you want style, luxury, panache, elegance, distinction to be made. It must be that if I buy a Rolls-Royce, I will automatically be all those things, right? No. What other products do this? This is the way they advertise. Anyone?
A lot of fancy products like some watch commercials.
Watch Rolex. Yeah. Cars, suits. Yeah, luxury cars, suits. Every single jewelry store. Yeah. Anything that is super expensive are going to appeal to your sense of wanting to be a cultural elite.
I'm trying to hide the fact that cost $5 to make in China.
Exactly. For a while, they were really exposed. What company? It was Chevy, GMC. Their line of cars. So you had Chevy, GMC. What's the luxury Chevy? Cadillac. If you notice from the 80s and the 90s, all of their model cars look exactly the same. Like the last one to do is actually the truck that I own, the Avalanche. If you look at a Chevy Avalanche and a Cadillac Escalade, the ones that were the pickups, exactly the same vehicle, except one has a Cadillac logo on it, one has a Chevy logo on it. What does Cadillac say to everyone? It says one of two things. An old person drives this vehicle, or this is a really expensive vehicle. Chevy is just the everyman car, right? That's what it looks like. So that's exactly what's going on here. All right, we're caught up now? We can advance? All right. The appeal to tradition, high tech. This is the one, all you guys, this is marketing directed at teenagers. It's the appeal to high tech, latest and greatest. First, the appeal to tradition. Something is better because it is associated with the past. Here's your tradition one, just like grandma used to make. Cooking does this a lot. Trying to make fast food sound like home cooking. How many of you guys think your grandmas are excellent cooks? Okay. How many things on a fast food menu taste like something your grandma would cook? Zero of those things, right? Yeah, well, the first one? Well, I'll put up another thing. This will disappear in a second, okay? There, now you can take a picture of that. Appeal to high tech. Something is better because it is the latest and the greatest. Anyone know someone who buys the new version of the iPhone every time it comes out? Every single. Alex, you do that? Josh.
Well, I know consoles do this a lot. Like current gen of consoles, I think
Yeah.
Xbox is coming out for
Xbox, what's the new one called? X?
Xbox Series X.
I-
The smaller version of it is the Xbox Series S.
Yeah, well, no, that's the new one. That's the Xbox One Series S. But I like video games, and I'm an Xbox guy, but PlayStation did it way better. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and now the 5's coming out. I never know what the new Xbox is going to be called.
You see, I prefer Xbox controllers, but I prefer the PS4 look and graphics in their games.
Yeah.
But I like the Xbox controller better.
Xbox controller is way better. The only thing PlayStation has going for it is that it has MLB The Show.
And the Spider-Man game.
No. MLB The Show, that's it. Everything else is better on Xbox.
Well, PS4 has better graphics though.
Yeah, I'll have to take your word for that. I'm too old for high-tech video games now anyway. I just get absolutely destroyed when I play like shooting games. So, the iPhone X, is that the latest one now, or are we on
iPhone 12.
iPhone 12? Again, super confusing because we're in the year 2020. Why aren't we on the iPhone 20? Let's get up with the times. It's just so much easier. Well, The thing about the iPhone is I have a MacBook. You know how you know what model MacBook you have? The year you bought it in. So like I have a MacBook 2017. It's really easy to figure out how old it is then. So everyone got firm grasp, advertising, propaganda. Again, as we step into, we're going to be talking about Kokel's book now, coming into this. What is the point of recognizing logical fallacies? What are some of the reasons why it's important for us to learn this material and learn these categories? First one is so that we're not deceived. Okay? That's the big one. People out there are constantly lying to you. Recognize the ways they try to do it. What is the second reason we want to know about logical fallacies? Kaylee. So we don't deceive others, okay? Is it important that we don't misrepresent our faith or misrepresent our own opinions just to get someone to agree with us? If you use the same tactics as your unfair opponent, what does that make you? Unfair. Just as slimy as the other guy, okay? 2, 3. This is why it's called tactics. 3, if someone is using an error, that is automatically something you can use to your advantage. And that's why Kokel talked about tactics. We're going to talk about the difference between strategy and tactics. This is like being like under a camera or something. So if in a tactic your opponent makes an error, is that something you can capitalize on? Yeah. How many people have or are currently playing organized sports?
I will be.
You will. The next month, basketball?
Wrestling.
Wrestling? Wrestling is perfect. I used to wrestle. So the whole point of wrestling is one, either you are just way better than the person you're wrestling and you just destroy them. That happens occasionally. Okay? In most wrestling matches, the idea is you're supposed to be the same weight, the same strength, and then what do? You wait for your opponent to mess up, and then you pin them, right? So it works the same in argumentation. Now, when we do it, when we're defending the Christian faith, we do it so that we're not jerks. And the point of defending the faith is not to win an argument. It's to do what? Persuade someone. So it makes sense. If you can recognize where your opponent's making an error, it becomes easier to persuade them if you can point it out. Make sense? Okay. Sharing your faith. If you ever want to know, that's what Gregory Kokel looks like. It's always fun to... I like doing this when I listen to podcasts or radio shows because I have an idea of what somebody looks like according to their voice, and I look it up and I'm like, I was way off. So that's Gregory Kokel. Really smart guy. I've listened to several podcasts. I am contemplating having you guys listen to one of the podcast episodes I've heard him interviewed on as your at-home assignment until next time. I'll think about that because I think you should hear him talk. He makes a lot of sense. Okay? So, first point of the book is to be an ambassador. Now, we have to clarify this, and I don't think that Kokel did a particularly good job of setting this up. It was actually a little disappointing reading through the book. When Kokel tells us we should be ambassadors, as Christians, we should automatically recognize that we are always ambassadors. Okay? When it comes to your Christian faith, the moment someone knows you're a Christian, you have become an ambassador for Christ at that moment, whether you choose to or not. That's the baseline of understanding the material in this book. You as Christians are always ambassadors. I need a volunteer to read 2 Corinthians 5:17 through 20. 2 Corinthians 5:17 through 20. Oh, I almost forgot. We were going to review the logical fallacies, and I was going to throw candy at you guys, and I had it in a bag. We only had one kid come to our house for Halloween, and I bought a giant $20 bag of candy at Hy-Vee.
2 Corinthians 5:15.
2 Corinthians, and I'll just randomly start throwing candy at people.
2 Corinthians 1.
2 Corinthians 5:17 through 20.
17. Okay, I'm here. life is gone, a new life has begun. And all of this is a gift from God who brought us back to himself through Christ, and God has given us this task of reconciling people to him. For God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, no longer counting people's sins against them, and he gave us this wonderful message of reconciliation. So we are Christ's ambassadors. God makes his appeal through us. We speak for Christ when we plead. Come back to God. Should I go past verse 21?
No, that's it. Perfect. What is it that makes you an ambassador? Yeah, your faith in Christ. The moment you receive faith in Christ, the moment you receive Christ as your Savior, you are automatically an ambassador for the gospel message. Okay. So when Coco says be an ambassador, he's telling you to be what you already are to do a better job at it. Okay? So, randomly throwing candy at people. Wish I would have remembered that, but I hid it in my bag. All right. So, even if you are not actively witnessing, even if you are not out at the park convincing someone of the truth of Christianity, you're still an ambassador. How many of you guys have jobs? Okay, a couple of you have jobs. How many of you guys are going to work at Chick-fil-A because of last time? Huh? You work there? All right. So, do your coworkers know you're a Christian? It means you are an ambassador all the time, right? If your coworkers find out you go to church on Sunday, automatically ambassador. Alex.
Chick-fil-A is a Christian business.
What's that?
Chick-fil-A is like a Christian organization.
But do non-Christians work for Chick-fil-A? Do you have non-Christian coworkers? Yeah, absolutely. Always, always. And can you be an ambassador for Christians? Can you demonstrate the best parts of Christianity to a Christian for their encouragement, or if they're struggling or anything like that? That's the point of an ambassador, right? Okay. Even if you're not actively witnessing, then how are you an ambassador? Even if you're not arguing with someone to defend the faith, what are the ways you're an ambassador?
You can even do it by being a light everywhere you go and sharing God's love with other people, encouraging and praying for them.
Bingo. Matthew 5:16. Someone not Nathan. Sorry, you used it up. You got Skittles for it too. When you have it, raise your hand and then read it. All right.
In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven.
Excellent. All right. The biggest way that you are an ambassador as a Christian is your good works. It's living your life out as a Christian without even speaking a word about the faith, even if no one knows you're a Christian. By living out your faith, you are being an ambassador for Christ. Does that make sense? Okay. So, being an ambassador, Coco talked about the 3 skills of an ambassador. We can train ourselves to be better ambassadors. The first skill of an ambassador is knowledge. What do we mean by knowledge? How does that play into being an ambassador for Christ? Knowing how to act, kind of.
Being well informed of like what the Bible says and also the reasons behind your faith.
Yeah. So the key here is to know what you believe and why you believe it. Right? Can you be an ambassador for Christ if you have no idea what the Bible says? If you're not able to articulate the content of the gospel, are you going to be an effective ambassador for Christ? No. Can you improve at that? So knowledge is the first step. Next step is wisdom. What's the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Josh.
Knowledge is knowing tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it on a fruit salad.
Okay, that works. Knowledge, wisdom is applied knowledge. You ready? Bank shot. Oh, I called it too. I almost made it. It's really hard to throw a Snickers across a room. All right. So, knowledge is knowing the facts about something. Wisdom is knowing how to apply that knowledge. Okay? So, how many of you guys ever played Trivial Pursuit? Or watched Jeopardy on TV? There we go, a little bit more. What good do those facts do you in real life?
Zero.
Not much, right?
Occasionally you'll come across one that you might use.
Okay, like when you're trying to cross a bridge and it might be Like, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Something like that. That's the only way you get by it. That's from a movie. I'll let you guys figure out which movie it was. There you go. Yes, someone has seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Very nice. All right. Wisdom is using what you know in real life. So how many think advanced math is mostly useless?
Completely useless unless you're a mathematician or a scientist.
Not necessarily. You use it on a regular basis. Wisdom is knowing how to use that for your advantage. You know when you're going to start needing to know advanced math? The second you own a house and you start having to make major repairs. Okay? All of these things are related. So that's wisdom. Wisdom makes your message clear. Wisdom is how you be persuasive about your faith or whatever you're debating in an argument. That's wisdom. The final skill of an ambassador. Anyone remember this from chapter 1? Knowledge, wisdom, character. We've been talking about this. What does character have to do with being a good ambassador for Christ? Alex.
Not going around like being rude to everyone, like opening a door for someone if they need help.
Yeah. So, can you know the facts about Christianity?
Yes.
Can you be good at defending it?
Yes.
Does any of that matter if you're a jerk? No. Correct. All right, Alex. Oh, sorry, Alyssa. I really thought that'd have to be more aerodynamically sound. All right. So character is that you embody embody the virtues of what you say you believe. If you say you believe something, but what you believe doesn't impact your life, how good of an argument is that going to be to someone who's asking you about your faith? None whatsoever, okay? Actually, the best example of this blowing up on someone is not from religion. How many of you guys saw that news clip of the rioters intimidating that poor lady in Washington, D.C. sitting at the cafe? Did you guys see that? So there's this lady sitting outside at a cafe eating with her friend, and a bunch of rioters came and wanted her to raise her fist and stand in solidarity with whatever they were rioting, and she just refused because they were trying to intimidate her for doing that. If someone tries to intimidate you to believe what they want to believe, what immediately does that say about their position to you? They do not have a good character. It's not actually impacting what they believe, right? So this is going to be a common theme over the next 2 class periods as we talk about this. The nature of belief is that you believe whatever you believe to be true. If you believe it's true, you should be able to demonstrate to someone why you believe it's true. The moment you start using manipulative tactics to get someone to agree with you, if you're paying attention, what does that say? Your argument is weak. What you believe is weak. If you believe something to be true, you should be able to demonstrate that. That also works for Christianity. Okay. So then Coco talked about in the first chapter that we have 2 areas of strategic advantage when it comes to being Christian, and they are called offensive and defensive apologetics. Why are these areas of defending the Christian faith? It's not going to pop up beyond that. And we have one more bullet point for people taking pictures. Why is the discipline of apologetics an advantage for Christianity? Melissa.
Kind of like because we know how to talk to the people and we have the wisdom of like the Pharisees having to approach us.
Okay, so one, we have the ability to be trained. What else? What's the advantage of defending Christianity? Think about it, Josh.
Stay Christian and you might convince somebody else that Christianity is correct.
Okay, so the ability to be persuasive. Isaiah?
Well, you're on Jesus' side.
You're on Jesus' side. You guys are getting closer. Right, watch out, heads up. Oh! Patrick Mahomes with his terrible wide receivers who don't catch it. All right, Nathan.
You're justifying beliefs to yourself.
You guys are dancing around the central issue here, and it's making me a little bit nervous. What is the advantage we have in defending Christianity?
We are Christians.
We are Christians, that's fine. People defending the Islamic faith are Muslims. What is the advantage Christians have?
Oh, we won't.
It's true, right? Christianity is able to be defended because it's true. What that means, offensive apologetics, can we make a positive case for believing the Christian faith?
Yes.
What do we just have to do?
List the facts.
Well, just point to Jesus, right? There's any number of ways people can think about Jesus that will bring them to the faith. And is it the fact the message about Jesus Christ is what causes people to believe? We covered this our very first class period, Romans 1:16. I am not ashamed of the power of the gospel because it is the power of God for salvation. The best way to have someone be saved is to preach the gospel. Okay? Now, with that saying, we can point to Jesus because Jesus is real. He actually lived. We know where he lived. Okay? Things like that. We're going to get into some really fun stuff after Christmas when we start doing some of these apologetics exercises. There we have the actual remains of a person in the Bible. We found their coffin. Caiaphas. You guys know who Caiaphas is? Who's Caiaphas?
He's the high priest.
He's the high priest who tried Jesus before his crucifixion. They found his coffin in Jerusalem. It's awesome, okay? So, Christianity is true. Now, what if someone attacks our faith? Why is it easiest for us to defend Christianity? Because it's true. All right, Lincoln, I kind of gypped you on that. There you go. All right. So, Christianity is true. It's easy to defend, okay? Now, if something is not true or can't be proven, is that a little bit harder? What does that mean? Every time you talk to a Mormon, you have an advantage. Why? The Mormon faith is not true. Every time you talk to a Muslim, you have an advantage. Why? The Islamic faith is not true, right? And in fact, you can't prove that it's true or not true because it's not based on history. Christianity is based on history. This is our strategic advantage. We can make a positive case for Christianity and we can defend the faith. Josh.
I've been just thinking about like how stupid the Muslim faith really is, because like it was created after Revelations, and wasn't like Muhammad like a Christian before whatever. Okay. Well, then that falls apart.
Now, Muhammad wasn't a Christian before he invented Islam. He was a pagan. The Muslim tradition was built off of pagan Arabs' views at the time, and more or less, and I have to be careful how I characterize it because I'm not an expert on the history of Islam, more or less he condensed it down into one train of thought. Okay? But we will talk about that in a couple of months. I have a whole presentation for you guys.
Don't Muslims have?
One than you. Josh first. What?
Why is it an Abrahamic faith then?
Because they believe in the historicity of Abraham. Okay?
To be Muslim, don't you have to believe in angels? Because in the Muslim religion it talks about
Yep.
Muhammad being visited by Gabriel.
Muslims believe in angels. Yep. So, yeah, I'm just pump the brakes on the whole Islam talk because we'll get there, okay? You guys are going to spoil a whole lecture if you keep going down this line. We got to talk about tactics, all right? So, two areas of strategic advantage. Both of them work for us because Christianity is true. This is the last bullet point. Now, what we were talking about right at the beginning of this section. What's the difference between strategy and tactics? You need to come in.
Just ask really quick, this is the last people. Are Maya or Tori going to get pictures? No?
And Maya's already gone. She was excused.
Okay.
Right. Wise decision not to get your picture taken. I hate having my picture taken. So, Josh.
Isn't tactics like going military perspective? Tactics is like the battle itself, and strategy is like campaign of war.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. So, strategy is your game plan. Tactics is how you adjust your game plan according to the way the game is going. Chocolate or fruit? You haven't got one yet, Tori. Yeah. I'm rewarding you for not getting your picture taken. Chocolate? All right. I'd like to say that I'm at least hitting people most of the time, okay? So, tactics are how you adjust your game plan as whatever it is you plan to do is being played out, Okay? So let's talk about this, how it works itself out. What is your strategy for sharing or defending your faith? What's the strategy, the big picture? Knowledge, wisdom, how? Okay? So how does knowledge play into your strategy? Know what you believe. Know what you believe and why you believe it. How does wisdom play into your defending faith? Josh? Well, it's part of it.
Know how to apply wisdom in real life.
Yeah, so you know how to apply. So, fact, Jesus died on the cross. Historical fact. Wisdom, Jesus died on the cross for me, and particularly if you're sharing your faith, for you, right? You see how that plays out? Okay, both of those important. Character, big part of the strategy of sharing the faith. What's your character?
What you demonstrate to other people, how you act.
Yeah.
and how you
Yeah, your character is what you demonstrate, what you believe, how it impacts your life. Okay, so that's the big picture strategy. It's I'm going to look for opportunities to share my faith, and in the meantime, I'm not going to force it down people's throat. I'm going to live a Christian life so that they recognize I'm different. Remember, what's the theme verse of apologetics? This was on the quiz 2 times. 1 Peter 3:15. Always be prepared to give a defense to anyone who asks you for the reason, for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. That's the game plan. 1 Peter 3:15 is your strategy. Okay? Now what are the tactics? This is kind of a trick question. The tactics are you need for the rest of your life to walk around with the tactics book in your back pocket just in case. Well,
do the things that it talked about in there.
to do the things that it talked about in there. Tactics are, you don't know what your tactics are until you start discussing your faith with someone, right? So, if you know, your coworker finds one, it doesn't count for Chick-fil-A because you don't work on Sundays anyway. But I used to not work on Sundays, and I worked back before all the Office Maxes were Office Depot. I worked for Office Max, and I used to not work on Sundays for various reasons. And my coworkers, well, why aren't you going to be in on work on Sundays? Like, well, I have church, and then I'm doing this, this, and this. Okay, so that's part. And then your tactic would be, what if one of my coworkers said, well, only bigots are Christians? Now, do you have a tactic? What's your tactic? Well, that might work. No, Steph Curry's a Christian, right? No. No. What's your tactic? Do you remember from the book? Well, one of the logical fallacies, when someone calls you a name that was at the very end of the book, what do you do? Isaiah.
You ask them to describe why.
Yeah, ask them for the definition. Well, what is a bigot? Right? And then almost always, remember what Coco said, almost always the person calling you a bigot is actually a bigot. Right? That's the people who demand tolerance are often the most intolerant people in the world, right? That's how it works. That's a tactic, okay? Well, you say, well, I'm a Christian, and blah, 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 I'm a Christian, and someone say, well, how can you believe in all those myths and fairy tales? What's your tactic?
What myths and what fairy tales?
Yeah, what do you mean by that? Can you demonstrate, is the Bible actual history? Do we have evidence for it?
I think King Arthur's a fairy tale, but I don't think the Bible is.
Yeah, is there evidence that the Bible isn't a fairy tale? Is there evidence that King Arthur isn't a fairy tale?
There's some, but not
Very, very little.
convincing.
Yeah, unconvincing. Kaylee.
Convincing evidence that he's based off of someone or something. King Arthur himself is based off of Charlemagne, but there's no evidence that he existed.
Correct. Okay.
They might necessarily not even know exactly like what you believe,
Mm-hmm.
and have like a skewed perspective of like what your beliefs are.
Correct. Correct.
Some things like then you might actually agree with them and say, no, I don't believe in this.
Yeah, well, it's one of the most effective conversations I ever had was talking with an atheist coworker who said, oh, how can you believe in God? he's like, if the Christian God exists, it's just a terrible thing to believe in. And so I asked this person, well, what do you think we believe about God? And he listed all these terrible things about God. And I looked at this guy in the eyes and I said, oh, I don't believe in that God either. They were all caricatures that reflected nothing of the God in the Bible. And then he's like, oh, really? And it's he believed propaganda about Christians that was not true. And that's a tactic. Okay, anyone with questions about that? Who hasn't had candy yet? I need to get rid of this. Noah, oh, you haven't had 2 pieces. Anyone else not get candy? Noah, here, watch out, it's coming. Nice, very.
Could I get something besides Snickers? I really don't eat them.
You want Starburst?
Yeah.
Anyone want a Snickers? Just like, all right, you guys. All right, here we go. Who else didn't get candy yet? Luke, what do you want? Fruit or chocolate? Fruit. Skittles? Oh, you guys.
Snickers first.
What?
Can I trade Snickers for a Skittle?
You can have a Skittle. Just pass your Snickers on to someone else. I don't care. Oh, see, now that one flies, and the other one almost hit Alyssa. Okay, so everyone has candy now? We're good? Hannah, you didn't get candy yet, did you? Do you want candy? What do you want? Actually, I'm down to chocolate, so you... Snickers, all right? All right, okay. So we wasted, everyone who's watching on the internet, we wasted all their time. All right, good. So we're good on tactics and strategy? Okay. Warnings and reservations. And basically this is Gregory Kokel's telling you need to go in this with eyes wide open, okay? What do we need to be careful of here? Tactics are not manipulative tricks, are not slick ruses, and they are not clever ploys used to embarrass people or to coerce them to submit our point of view. What does this mean in short? If we are defending the faith or promoting the faith, 1, we don't commit the same logical fallacies our opponents do. And 2, the point of defending and promoting the Christian faith is not to win a fight. Okay? Keep that in mind. We don't commit the same logical fallacies, and we're not out to win a fight. What's the purpose of defending or promoting the faith? Well, to defend truth, but more than that,
To plant seeds and pray that the one day have a relationship with Jesus.
to plant seeds. What was the phrase that Gregory Kokel used throughout the book? Put a rock or put a pebble in their shoe. Yeah? Why that?
Because it'll start getting on their mind.
All we want to do is to get them thinking. Is it important for us to close the deal? Not necessarily. Why? Because it's the Holy Spirit's job to make a Christian. Right? It's not your job, it's the Holy Spirit's job. Okay. Arguing versus fighting. What's the difference?
Fight is you're just trying to get back as fast as possible.
Mhm.
The final word out. Arguing is trying to maneuver yourself around the conversation to get your point across without the end goal of just making them stop.
Correct. So now we have to be careful because in today's day and age, I think when most people think about arguing, they're actually thinking about fighting. When we're talking about arguing, we're actually making an argument for something. So if someone tries to convince you that you should be a Hindu, they're making an argument in favor of Hinduism. Okay? The same way, we make arguments in favor of our Christian faith. Does that make sense? Right? And then one of our reservations, why don't people promote the faith? Why don't people defend the faith? Because they have a fear of failure. Okay, in promoting and defending the faith, do you have to know all of the answers? No. Is it your job to seal the deal and make a sale? No. What is our goal again? Plant a seed. Put a pebble in someone's shoe, or if you use the baseball analogy that Kokel used, all you need to do is get to the plate You don't need to hit a home run. You don't even need to hit a single. All you need is an opportunity to get up to the plate. You see why that's a big deal? If you step up we have any baseball players in here? Yeah. If you are down by 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth and you come up with 2 outs and the bases loaded, are you under a lot of pressure? Yeah, that's a big deal, right? That's not the kind of pressure you're under when you're defending the Christian faith. Okay? The pressure you're under is just to be an ambassador. And guess what? What do we talk about at the beginning of this section? You already are an ambassador. It's not something you need to have a lot of anxiety. That being said, the rest of the book and the rest of our sessions on this topic next time are going to be, can we be better ambassadors? Right, good. I know it's late. You know, it's 3:15. We're getting close to everyone's bedtime. I know it's getting dark like in 5 minutes because of daylight savings time. Well, you can do this, okay? You can do this. So, where are we going to leave out? We're actually going to get done early because this is a good breaking section. Who's this guy? Detective Columbo, an actual real TV character. I should assign you guys to find an episode of Columbo and watch it because it's a relatively innocent show from the 80s. All right? This is Columbo. What does Columbo have to do with sharing your faith?
I have no idea. I didn't even know it existed.
You did read the book, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Lincoln.
Well, it's just one of the tactics, and he uses an example of what Columbo did, and that's why he calls it. But I don't really remember. What
Yeah.
Columbo
Why Columbo? And so Columbo is a detective. Okay, good. We've got word association down. So why Columbo and not Sherlock Holmes? Because Sherlock is my own son, and your assignment for the next 2 weeks is to reread the entire book. Okay, the point isn't that Columbo is stupid. What's the difference between Columbo and Sherlock Holmes? Lincoln.
because of
Their strategies, okay. Come on, someone. What's the difference?
their tactics.
Their tactics, okay. Now you guys are just throwing generalities out there and hoping I don't accept generalities. You guys found that out on the last quiz, right? It's very specific. What's the difference between Columbo and Sherlock?
You're welcome.
Very nice. Kaylee.
Columbo asks questions in more of a passive way to actually try.
Columbo is not a threat. Okay? How many of you watched the latest Sherlock series on the BBC with Benedict Cumberbatch? In your language, it's what, Doctor Strange? Is that who it is? Yeah. Prince Humperdinck? What? No. So you didn't watch that. How many of you guys have read Sherlock Holmes movie? Or read Sherlock Holmes mysteries?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone watch Elementary on CBS?
I watched Sherlock and Watson.
Sherlock and Watson. Anyone seen the cartoon Sherlock and Watson in the 24th century or whatever it is? It's a terrible cartoon for you. Isaiah knows what I'm talking about. That's an awful cartoon, isn't it? It's terrible. No.
Yeah, I watched Sherlock
The Phoenician. Yeah, or the Sherlock Holmes with Iron Man in it. You seen that one? Iron Man played all of these. The thing about Sherlock Holmes is he's always the smartest person in the room. And everyone knows it, especially Sherlock Holmes. Okay? Sherlock Holmes is a jerk most of the time because all he cares about is the truth. Remember, that's where wisdom comes into play, right? Okay? Columbo is not an idiot, but he looks like an idiot. Why? Hey, Tori. To seem less threatening. And as it plays out in the show, and none of you guys have seen the show because you didn't know Columbo existed until you read the book, what it ends up is Columbo gets people who have committed crimes to admit things because they think he's too stupid to figure it out. Okay? So the point of Columbo is not that Christians should be stupid or play stupid. The point of Columbo is that in defending the faith, Christians should not be aggressive and we should not be threatening. Okay? We should ask questions, and whenever possible, let others do the work for us in promoting and defending the faith. Work smarter, not harder. Does that make sense? All right, that is it. Any questions before we wrap it up? All right, pass this around. Whoever wants chocolate candy, go for it.
Did that for us.
I'm going to end the stream.